Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the Gospel of John. We're still in John chapter 10. Today we start reading at verse 19. Now you recall from the last couple of sessions, Jesus has been talking to the people about that He is the good shepherd. He is the good shepherd. He gives His life for the sheep. He also made mention of the fact that those who are of His flock will hear His voice and follow Him. But of course, there are those who will not hear and who will not follow because they are not of His flock. And so, as we begin to read verse 19, it again is mentioned the division among the Jewish people between those who have heard Him gladly and believe, and of course those who refuse to believe, refuse to hear, and are against Him. And so that division is once again mentioned in verse 19. So the Jews who heard these words were again divided. Many of them said, well, he's demon-possessed. He's raving mad. Why listen to him? But others said, these are not the sayings of a man possessed by a demon. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind? So again, you see that division. Some think, well, he's crazy, or maybe even possessed by a demon, saying stuff like this. But others said, that cannot be. Listen to him. You can tell he's not of a demon. And he opened the eyes of the blind man. Only one from God could do that. So you see the division. You see the division among the crowd. And then verse 22, then came the festival of dedication at Jerusalem. It was winter. So another Jewish festival is mentioned. Now, the last time a festival was mentioned was back in chapter 7, when it said that Jesus returned to the area of Judea, the Jerusalem area, for the festival of tabernacles. That was in chapter 7. Now remember, the Festival of Tabernacles occurs in the fall. Now we are told it's the Festival of Dedication. That occurs in the winter. So in this intervening time between chapter 7 and chapter 10, Jesus has stayed in the area of Judea, and we've now passed from fall into winter. Now, what is the Festival of Dedication? Actually, this is not one of the biblical festivals. You know, in the Old Testament, there are a number of festivals that are mentioned, the most important of which are, of course, Passover in the spring, Pentecost in the early summer, and Tabernacles in the fall. Those are the three great pilgrim festivals. There are also others, but those are the ones most prominent. They've been mentioned so far in John. But now he mentions the Festival of Dedication. Now, this was a festival that arose not during the time of the Old Testament, but during the time between the ending of the Old and the beginning of the New. In that intertestamental period is when the Festival of Dedication arose. It came out of an event that occurred in the 2nd century before Christ. Now, during that time, there was a king over the area that is now Syria by the name of Antiochus Epiphanes, who had come into control of Israel. He had conquered them, as it were. And during his reign, he attempted to exterminate Judaism. He wanted everyone to be Greek and to worship Greek gods. And so he attempted to do away with the Jewish faith. He initiated a great persecution, as it were. And he desecrated the temple. The temple in Jerusalem, he desecrated it. Well, a revolt began among the Jewish people against Antiochus Epiphanes, the Syrian king, led by the Maccabee brothers. It's called the Maccabean Revolt. And they were successful. They eventually defeated Antiochus and established Jewish independence. And after they had driven the Syrian army out of Jerusalem, they rededicated the temple. And so that became an annual festival, and still is, among the Jewish people, the Festival of Dedication, also called Hanukkah. You're very familiar with the celebration of Hanukkah. Well, it is the time to remember when the temple was rededicated after Antiochus had desecrated it. It was rededicated in the 2nd century BC. Okay, that's the festival being talked about here. So Jesus is in Jerusalem for the festival of Hanukkah, or dedication. And it says in verse 23, he's walking in the temple courts in Solomon's colonnade. Now, Solomon's colonnade is a long porch that extends along one side of the temple. It's a very public area, a very popular area for gathering, for public gatherings and events to occur. So Jesus is walking in Solomon's colonnade during the festival of dedication, and people are gathering around him See if he has anything to teach, see what he has to say. And so it says in verse 24, the Jews who were there gathered around him and said, how long will you keep us in suspense? If you are the Messiah, tell us plainly. Jesus has been teaching them. He's been telling them he's the light of the world. He's been telling them he is the Son of Man. They're just not listening. But now they, with this division, some do believe, some do not. They say, listen, Jesus, tell us directly, tell us plainly. Just say it straight out. Are you the Messiah or not? Are you the Messiah? And Jesus begins to answer them. Now, in tomorrow's session, we'll look at how Jesus answers this question. Tell us directly, are you the Messiah? He's in the temple during the time when they're remembering the rededication of the temple, and he's about to answer them, are you the Messiah? That's what they want to know. They want a direct answer. Let's see what Jesus has to say. We'll look at that tomorrow in our 5-minute Bible study in the Gospel of John.